Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making time to come to this event. We're very happy to host Alkan, the host of Mindspeak Business Forum, to Dar es Salaam for the first time. We're looking forward for an interesting discussion, and we hope to have an interaction after this event, and we're looking forward to an interactive session where we're going to discuss different issues from a bit of politics, a bit of governance, issues to do with natural resources and all that. So without wasting much of your time, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Alkan to Dar es Salaam.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you kindly for coming today to Mindspeak. It's a real pleasure and actually a privilege to be here and to be hosting the Honorable January Makamba, the Member of Parliament for Bumbuli, Deputy Minister of Communications, Science and Technology. Interestingly, we met each other for the first time last weekend. But in fact, we met over Twitter because everyone kept telling me, you've got to be following this man, and his Twitter handle is @JMakamba. So I'd been following January for a long time, and each time I followed him, I became more and more interested in what I was hearing and what I was seeing. And then I found myself being visited by these 21st century emissaries of January. There's Monica Musunda in the front row, Captain Mutiso, I can't see the captain, and many other people kept coming up to me and engaging me about January. And I thought to myself, with this kind of engagement, who is this man? So I am so privileged to be here today, to be with you, to be hosting Honorable January Makamba. And if I can just briefly touch on a couple of points before I'll explain Mindspeak itself. You know, more than 100 years ago, my family got on a dhow and they came to Tanzania, and they lived here for many, many years. And still today, they speak about it with such fondness and happiness. And therefore, the next thing I'm grateful to be here for is to be amongst brothers and sisters, because we're all brothers and sisters in Tanzania, in East Africa. And we all want the same thing. We want a better life for our children. We want opportunities. We want nothing different to anywhere else. And as I listened to January, and as I read his various articles on the web, and in one of them, he describes how he goes back to his village, and he sees children walking around, and he said that's what motivates him. And January, I think that is the one quality that I think we need. It's the motivation to make lives better for all our people. One of my favorite quotes is by Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo says, "There is nothing like a dream to create the future." As we sit here potentially at a generational change, a time when, though January tells me he's older than 81% of Tanzanians, he still represents a brand new generation and a brand new way of thinking. When I met January last weekend, I went back to my wife Nishet, and I said, the way I was welcomed was so marvelous. The etiquette, it's called etiquette, the way you greet, and I didn't understand where this came from. And then I read about your grandmother and about your relationship with your grandmother. And in it, January speaks about how it was his grandmother who taught him these ways of receiving people and dealing with them. And that quality is a marvelous quality. January spoke of living in a village in Lesotho, and in that description he talks about a time when times were very, very hard, and I think that must have been in the 80s. And somebody came to our house in Mombasa in the 1980s, and he was actually from the same village, and he's been with our family for all those years. And he used to describe the village of Lesotho to me. And when I saw January, I said, January, I've been waiting to come to this place because Juma has told me what an incredible place it is. So just to say how much I feel at home amongst you, amongst everyone here, and how privileged we are to have taken Mindspeak across the border to such an important place as Dar es Salaam. In another article I read, which was on CPI Financial, it describes January as fearlessness to change. And you know, the one constant in the world we live today is it's moving faster, it's more complex, it's more fluid. And in this new age, we need somebody who is fearless about change. It requires a 21st century leader with a 21st century vision. And as I listened to the Honorable Makamba's words, I found that there is a vision, there is a policy, there is a way of thinking that I'm sure he's going to tell us all about today. If I can just touch on Mindspeak itself. Mindspeak started about 7 or 8 years ago, and the inspiration for it, strangely enough, came from a place I visited in Turkey called Konya. And Konya is the home for a very famous Sufi religious leader called Rumi. And as you enter the mausoleum, it is written as you enter. Sorry, let me just get to the bit that was written. It says, ours is not a caravan of despair. Ours is a caravan of hope. Come, come, whoever you are, come. And it made me think of January. It is a caravan of hope. It's a caravan of change. And I'm therefore so glad and proud that we are here today to join this caravan. If I may leave you with two final thoughts. There's a very famous advert that Apple did, and I see everyone's got an Apple. But once upon a time, Apple was a very small company in the US. And they put out an advert. And they were talking about, and it was talking about the types of people who buy an Apple. It says, these are the people who see things differently. You can quote them, you can disagree with them, you can glorify them or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. And I would like to say that to you, January. I would like to just touch on a couple of final points before I hand the floor to our guest. I saw that you got given an award, Democracy Award, by the National Democratic Institute. It says it honors individuals that have exhibited a sustained commitment to democracy and human rights and have demonstrated leadership. And these are the points I wanted to touch on. Integrity. You know, we look for moral compasses in people. When I sat with January on Saturday, I said to myself, this man is a man with a compass, and a very clear compass. And I think that is a quality that we all appreciate. If I might just say that I really am grateful to be here. Dar es Salaam has taken us regional again, and I'm grateful for that. Mindspeak was created as a forum for us to engage not only with politicians, but with businessmen, CEOs, anyone who's got a story to tell and is willing to tell it. And we're very excited to be here, January, to hear your story and to hear how you're going to change this East African region. When we were speaking, January said to me, you know, I'm an East Africanist and a Pan-Africanist. And he told me about the days when Tanzania was the lodestar for the African continent, as we all looked for our independence, to find our own government. I had an aunt who worked for many years for President Nyerere, and she loved him. And January said to me, we want to take that leadership position again. And therefore, I turn to you, Honorable January Makamba. I welcome you to Mindspeak. I'm grateful to you for taking this opportunity to engage with us. Thank you so much.
Morning. Next time, Ali, please use just January, not honorable. I want to thank you for that generous introduction, and I want to thank you again for finally getting Mindspeak to Dar es Salaam. And I want to thank all of you for making time to attend. The turnout this morning speaks to the hunger for a conversation in our collective quest for human progress. Now, almost exactly 20 years ago, in this very hotel, upstairs, I think on the second floor, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who was the father of our nation, gave a memorable speech about the state of our nation back then. Mwalimu likened our country to a house, and he noted that the house has been shaken and that he saw some cracks. He saw some cracks on the walls, he saw some cracks on the roof, and some cracks on the foundation. And he was worried. Mwalimu said that he believed that a major task for the new leadership that we were going to elect that year, 1995, was to deal with these cracks so that they don't spread and expand to a point where our house would collapse. So we meet here today at a very critical time in the history of our country. It is time to assess whether the cracks that Mwalimu identified still exist. My view is that they still do, and some have spread and expanded, and in fact we have some new ones. Rising inequality, crime, increasing corruption, social and political divisions arising out of constitutional review process, religious divisions, a challenge to our union, and many things that we see dividing us as our country. Stating these facts, that there are cracks, is not an indictment to our leaders, past and present. It is being honest with the situation that we face. In fact, were it not for the kind of leaders that we have, the situation could have been worse. We have a great country and a great people. We know for sure that our country can be better. In the face of challenges in the past, we pulled together to do extraordinary things to save our republic and shine a light in and on the continent. We stood firm as a proud nation and provided moral voice on key issues. We spilled our blood and emptied our treasury to help liberate our brothers and sisters in Mozambique, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Namibia, Angola, and elsewhere. We are the only country in the continent that is an expression of Africa's dream for unity. We've played a key part in bringing peace in the Great Lakes region, and we now have peacekeepers in many countries across the world. This is a country that we want to continue to have, to continue to be proud of. But with these cracks, old and new, can our house withstand the minor impending earthquakes in the form of a constitutional review referendum in April and general election in October? Also, we need to deal with other social challenges which I see as a boiling volcano under the belly of our society. And this includes, first and foremost, joblessness, where we have about 22 million people in the job market. We have 900,000 new entrants every year. 90% of them having no more than a secondary education. 42% of our children under 5 malnourished, limiting their chances for learning and opportunities of a better life. We have a lot of children in our school, but not learning much that is meaningful or relevant to the world that they are going to encounter. We have rampant criminality, lawlessness, impunity, and the erosion of legitimacy of political leaders and state institutions. We have greed, intolerance, immorality. We have politicization of all aspects of our society. Fortunately, unfortunately also, we have gimmicks and showmanship among those in political life. We have bickering in the political elites. This is not the country that we want to have. Fortunately, we have devised a system of government where change is possible. Therefore, change of direction is necessary. And we have developed a political tradition here in our country where one generation hands over leadership to a younger generation. None is more responsible for the change of direction than the new generation of Tanzanians with more tomorrows than yesterdays. Over the course of the history of our country, a new generation of Tanzanians has risen up to do what was needed of it. Today, my generation is being called upon. We have no choice but to answer the call and create a future that we desire for our children and grandchildren's children. Despite the challenges we face, each of the previous leaders of our country have unfailingly set a path for generational transition of leadership. There should not be exception this time around. Our party, my party, CCM, will have to step up. More people than ever are looking up to it for leadership. The brand that most young people associate with my party, that is old, tired, and corrupt, must not be doubled down by a candidate with similar brand. It must be counterbalanced by a leadership that is new, dynamic, clean, innovative, and global. This is a new era. It has unique challenges that can only be understood and tackled by this new generation, the natives of this era. So it is time for a new generation of leadership. The new and complex challenges that we face today cannot be tackled with the mindset, upbringing, understanding, socialization style of the previous era. My generation is ready to answer the call and do the necessary. We are ready to take leadership of this country and move it to new, greater heights. We are ready to reclaim the Tanzanian dream. This generation understands what needs to be done and is capable of creating a Tanzania where a dream of every Tanzanian will be realized. We are a generation that is more informed than any other. We have embraced openness. We despise corruption and injustice. We want a clean, open, accountable government. We understand our challenges. We are creative. We are ambitious. We are fearless. We are ready to try new things, new ways of doing things. We cherish our heritage and our past, but we are not imprisoned by it. We run a lot of things already, but only in the background. When the banking system works, when all the telecom platforms function, when we enjoy broadcast on TV and radio, when we enjoy our films, our music, arts, when we marvel at the creativity of corporate marketing campaigns, when our children learn in school, when our borders are secure, when criminals are apprehended and brought to book, it is because young people in the background make these things happen. our soldiers, our engineers, our teachers, our doctors, our lawyers, our musicians, our film producers are all young people who want to move this country forward. We are trusted with so many important elements of the stability of our country. We are just not trusted with political leadership, which is the final and most important component of a better society. It is time that this change. Of course, there is certain presumptuousness in believing that we can occupy the highest offices of the land. The cynics will say we are not ready, we don't have experience, we need to be in politics longer, we are in a hurry. But I say that this is precisely the reason we should be given an opportunity. If this country, if we need serious transformation in this country. No one is ever too young to lead. An experience in tending, in sustaining the system that we all complain about, that long experience in sustaining the system that we all complain about is not what we need going forward. Yes, we have not been in politics for too long, and thank God, but we have been in it long enough to understand that it needs to change. We need a new politics. Thank you very much. We need a new politics that serves the people, not those who are in it. We need a new politics that fosters flexibility, compromise, and civility. We need a new politics that produces leaders not just with political authority, but also with moral authority to fight corruption and all ills of our society. We need a new politics that produces an accountable, transparent, and open government. Only a clean, ethical, and untainted leadership can bring about a new, clean, open, transparent government. Personally, I'm very proud of the experience that I've attained over the past 10 years that I've been involved in politics. As you know, and I'll speak a bit about that, as you know, our country is very big, but I've traveled to each and every district of our country, not once, but twice. I've met people of all walks of life. I've looked at their faces, I've talked to them, and I've understood their hopes and aspirations, their fears and challenges. And while at State House, I was fortunate enough to be able to read, analyze, and summarize development reports from every district of this country to prepare for presidential visits. So I still remember in each district all the challenges that people face. I've been recipient of cabinet papers for 10 years and sat in the cabinet for 5 years and able to understand how decisions are made at the highest office of the land. I know what has been done. I know what has worked. I know what has not worked. I know why, and I've learned about what needs to be done. From all the leaders that our President Kikwete, saw during his first 5 years in office, be it George Bush, King Abdullah, Muammar Gaddafi, Bill Gates, Gordon Brown, Raul Castro, I was in attendance, taking notes of the meetings, writing follow-up reports and correspondence. So I saw firsthand and learned quite a bit how diplomacy is handled, both at a personal and state level. I've pioneered innovative solutions to development challenges in my constituency. I've chaired the Energy and Minerals Committee in the Parliament, where we initiated public debates and new policy posture on fuel business, power supply, and extractives. I sat in the Leadership Committee of the Parliament, and I know very well how the Parliament operates. I also know my party very well. I was Secretary for Politics and International Affairs of CCM, a portfolio once held by President Mkapa when he was Foreign Minister, Dr. Salim Ahmed Salim, Dr. Sharoz Megiro, certainly not a bad company. I was a member of the Central Committee of my party, now National Executive Committee. I've contested national elections in our party and did very well against party heavyweights. So apart from exposure in governing, I know how my party operates, and I know how to win within it. And I know for sure that CCM still retains the trust of our people and is still the best hope for this country. Now, I'm not trying to gloat here with all the positions and exposure that I've been fortunate to get, but I'm making a point here that the audacity, the chutzpah, this presumptuousness that people accuse me of does not come out of nowhere. It comes from a firm belief that we, this generation, we are better placed to lead a realization of a new Tanzania that we all dream about. And we are better placed, I am better placed, not because of length of time in politics, not because of the positions we have held, but because of the advantage that we have, which is a deep knowledge of how government and politics operate without the impossible burden of unlearning the bad tendencies of government and politics. This is not about the young against the old. This is about those who have been schooled and attached to the old way of doing things against those who are bold, willing, and fearless to steer us to a new direction. This is about those with the emotional equity in the past against those with emotional equity in the future. If we want change in this country, we know for sure where to put our money in. And the way we have gone about indicating our intentions to lead this country has shown what we are going to get once we succeed. I've laid out in great detail and greater specificity my vision for the future of our country in a new book written by Dr. Padre Privatus Karugendo, who is in attendance here. I have been willing to be challenged, indeed to have my ideas challenged in open forums like this. I hope to see some new ideas from my colleagues, and I hope to see the exposure of those ideas to the challenges, just like today we're going to do. Our country will be better served by leaders who are open, confident, and tolerant enough to publicly engage and allow challenges. How one runs his campaign is how one will govern. If one is willing to do bad things, including buying votes to get elected, you can be sure that they will be willing and ready to do bad things to stay in power, including repression. So the indication of the type of leaders that we're going to get is in front of us, how they're running their campaign. If it's about gimmicks and trickery, we know that that's what we're going to get. And we, this generation, have shown that we can do politics differently, which is a clear indication that we can govern differently. This is not about age. This is about ability. And we pride ourselves with ability. Now, we have identified important interventions to move our country forward, and I've said they are in the book. We have developed new ideas on almost all aspects of our society. If you go and read my book, you'll find some new innovative ideas on energy, on the economy, on jobs, on education, healthcare, regional integration, and so forth. and I hope we'll be able to talk about some of those here. But so far, we're yet to see the alternatives to what I've put on the table. People who lead our countries are humans, just like us. Presidents do not come from the moon. We should not believe, we should absolutely never believe that people who are allowed to run for office are only those who are willing to do bad things. This is a sure way of getting bad leaders. Politics don't attract bad people, because there's this saying that politics attracts bad people. No, politics does not attract bad people. It's just that good people stay out of politics. This also must change. So I want to end with a note, which is a caveat or disclaimer, that we are not, this is not a political rally. This is not a campaign. I've just made a case for a new generation of leadership. And I hope we will have a conversation about our ideas and that, what precisely that means. Because, as you know, we're in the political seasons here. And, you know, you may read in the newspaper that there was a campaign rally at the Hyatt. This is not a campaign rally. This is about talking about the future of our country, which is important and necessary, because we have developed a tradition in this country that people run for office clandestinely, quietly. Ni kama vile tunatafuta mchawi maarufu miongoni mwetu. Watu wanagombea kwa kunyemelea, kwa kunyatia. Mtu anaongea kwa mafumbo, anaenda kwenye shughuli ya kampeni, lakini anasema sio kampeni. Sasa ya mambo yanapaswa kubadilika. Kama unataka uongozi, sema nataka, kwa nini? Sema mawazo yako, yaweke kwenye mimbari, watu wayachambue, watu wakupinge. Ndio namna ya kupata viongozi wazuri. Ndio duniani kote watu wanafanya. Kwa huu utaratibu wa kujificha ficha, alafu mtu anachomoza mwishoni, tunapata mtu ambaye hatujamvet, kwa sababu viongozi ambao tunawachagua sisi ndio tunawavet. Tunawavet kwa mawazo yao, tunawavet kwa maadili yao. Na tutawavet pale watakapojitokeza na kusema wanataka na kwa nini wanataka. Kwa mimi nimejitokeza ili mnivet. Na ndani na mimi naamini kwamba wale wanaojiita majasiri lakini wanakosa ujasiri wa kujitokeza na kusema wanataka na wana mawazo gani, ule ni uongo, ni ulaghai. Ujasiri unaonekana kwa namna unavyogombea na utayari wako wa kukaa mbele ya watu na kueleza mawazo yako ili wayachambue, ili wakupinge, ili ujitetee, ili uyaelezee. Ndio namna pekee nchi yetu itapata uongozi. Kwa hiyo sisi tunataka kufanya siasa ya tofauti. Siasa ya wazi, siasa isiyo na kificho. Kama tutafanikiwa, sawa. Kama hatutafanikiwa, watu watakuwa wameamua wamfanya uamuzi tofauti na tutaendelea kuitumikia nchi yetu kama kawaida. Ili jambo sio la kufa na kupona, kwamba lazima upate wewe, kwa hiyo usipopata hii nchi itaparanganyika. Hapa sisi tunaomba utumishi, na tunaomba utumishi wa watu, na watu wenyewe ndio wanatoa ridhaa ya utumishi huo. Hakuna sababu ya kufanya mazingaombwe, ya kufanya vitimbi ili kupata utumishi. Kwa hiyo naamini kwamba leo tutapata fursa ya kuongea baadhi ya mambo na mawazo ya kuifanya nchi yetu iwe nzuri zaidi, na hasa kwa vijana. Nafurahi kwamba nawaona wengi hapa, na nataka kusema kwamba moja ya changamoto kubwa ya vijana ni kutojiamini, kwamba kuna baadhi ya vijana ambao nakutana nao mimi kwenye mitandao au kwingineko, wanasema bwana mzaa huyo mna kitu, haiwezi kitu. Sasa hilo sio tatizo langu mimi, ni tatizo la yule anayesema hivyo. Kwa sababu yeye akijitazama kwenye kioo akajiaminisha kwamba hawezi, basi anaamini hakuna mwingine yote anayeweza. Sasa hilo ni tatizo kubwa. Sisi vijana tuna uwezo wa kufanya mambo makubwa. Nchi hii imefika hapa ilipo, na kama nilivyosema awali, kwa sababu ya kazi kubwa ambayo imefanywa na vijana. Vijana ndio waliotafuta uhuru wa nchi hii. Vijana ndio walikuwepo siku ya kwanza Tanzania inakuwa nchi huru. Watu wote walikuwa wanafanya maamuzi makubwa kuhusu nchi hii ni watu wenye miaka 32, 39, 28. Lakini vijana wenzangu wa sasa ambao wana fursa kubwa ya kujua mambo mengi, wamesoma sana, wanajikunyata, wanadhani future ya nchi hii tuwakabidhi watu ambao tayari wana jana nyingi na wana kesho chache. Lakini sisi wenye kesho nyingi tunataka kesho hizo zijengwe na watu wenye jana nyingi. Hilo ni tatizo. Kwa nataka tubadilishe na hakuna sababu ya kuogopa, na wakati ni sasa. Asanteni sana.